Nancy Cortez is on Capitol Hill. Nancy, the ranking Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, Paul Tonko, raised concern that Pruitt didn't know what was going on within his agency. How did Pruitt defend himself?
Well, that was a part of the challenge with Pruitt's defense, is that he kept saying that in all of these cases where there was excessive spending or some kind of an ethical lapse, that he frankly wasn't aware that it had happened and that he took steps to correct it after the fact. He said, for example, he didn't know that the soundproof booth was going to cost that much or he wouldn't have asked for it. He said he didn't know how large the raises were for those two close friends of his at the EPA. But that leads to a whole nother avenue of questioning, not just by Democratic lawmakers, but some Republicans as well, who say, well, how is it that you didn't know about any of these things, and what does that say about your leadership? So by seeking to avoid some problems, he may have created others for himself.
Well, despite scrutiny over his spending, the president has praised Pruitt for his actions as EPA chief. What sort of changes has he made since leading the agency?
Well, he's moved very quickly to cut regulations, and that is something that has drawn a lot of praise, not just from the president, but from a lot of Republicans here on Capitol Hill. And it's why you saw a lot of Republicans in these hearings going to bat for Pruitt here on Capitol Hill. They think that he's been very effective. They like the fact that he led the way to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accords, for instance. Obviously, Democrats take a different view, but that is something that has really insulated Pruitt for a long time. But here is the thing that has changed recently, Elaine. Andrew Wheeler, former coal lobbyist, about 2 weeks ago was confirmed as deputy EPA director. So the White House now has the person it wants installed at EPA in the #2 position. That means that if Pruitt were to leave under the weight of all of these allegations and investigations, that they have someone who could step into the role at least temporarily, perhaps through the midterm elections. And that may be part of the reason that you've seen a real downshift recently in White House support for Scott Pruitt. There was this vigorous defense for a long time, and lately they've been saying, well, let's wait and see how all these investigations pan out before we decide what the next step should be.
Interesting developments. Nancy Cortez on Capitol Hill. Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome, Elaine.